Everyone's favorite Republican senator from Texas, Ted Cruz, is really working hard for the people of Texas, and that strong work ethic is most evident in his social media acumen. Ted Cruz shared a post on X, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, that showed a shark allegedly swimming along the 405 in LA following flooding from Hurricane Hilary. The post turned out to be not only fake, but it was originally from 2011. Now, if you're like me, when you first heard that, you thought, oh, that wasn't that long ago. But no, 2011 was 12 years ago. That post was 12 years old. It was fake 12 years ago. It's been fake every time that meme has popped up throughout the years, usually following major hurricanes, and it's fake now. In fact, the meme was recirculated in 2017 after Hurricane Harvey, a Category 4 hurricane, hit Houston, Texas, which is where Ted Cruz and I both live. I don't know, I guess he missed it that time. Now, once he was called out for sharing a fake meme as if it was an actual news report, he said, quote, "In LA, you never know." The implication being that the people in LA are crazy woke leftists, so crazy in fact that news reports and stories out of LA are difficult to identify as either real or satirical these days. Now, this isn't the first time that Ted Cruz has been mocked for his social media prowess, but in his defense, when you tweet as much as Ted Cruz does, they're not all going to be winners. A report from Quorum found that in 2022, Ted Cruz was the most prolific senator on Twitter. The other Texas senator, John Cornyn, came in second place, but Ted had almost 3,000 more tweets than Cornyn. In 2022, Ted Cruz tweeted and retweeted 7,586 times in 1 year. That's roughly 20 times per day. What a spectacular use of his time and his senatorial, taxpayer-funded salary. And I'm sure he has a social media team working with him, so hopefully he's not just sitting in his office on his phone tweeting all day. But it is an interesting allocation of resources, especially considering that no one can possibly share anything of much value that often within a limited number of characters with or without a team. It's the epitome of quantity over quality, and being on social media that much is nothing to brag about. The other aspect to consider with all of this, however, beyond how ridiculous it is on the face, is how difficult it has become in a world that is written and expressed within a limited number of characters or 60-second TikToks or Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts to discern meaningful and informative dialogue from clickbait and satire. There's less emphasis on fact-checking when it comes to posting content that will get shared and drive engagement. There are also fewer social consequences for the person posting the content because it can't always be said that the poster is at fault for what people took away from the post. Things can be and often are misconstrued, especially when we're all posting on public platforms to people who may have wildly different lived experiences, levels of education, or senses of humor. As far as social media goes, it doesn't really matter if it's factual or not, as long as it's inflammatory and upsetting. We've convinced ourselves that some algorithm decides what's valuable and what isn't, not just in terms of monetary value, but also in terms of things we value as a society: integrity, truth, humor, etc. Because even with satire, the expectation is that it's obvious that it's satire. But now you'll hear things similar to what Ted Cruz said to excuse his LA post. Oh, well, people say and believe such crazy things these days that it's hard to tell whether or not they're being ironic or satirical or sarcastic or whatever. And yeah, there is some truth to that, but you have to wonder how we got to this point. How did we get to the point where things that were once so obviously ridiculous, let's take the flat earth conspiracy theory, for example. How did we get to the point that something like that, with no credible evidence to support it, has been given credibility by people who themselves are not credible? At that point, it just becomes something that exists within the realm of possibility, despite, again, the lack of credible evidence to support even the possibility. Now, people are inundated with so much information and misinformation on an increasingly regular level. We all have our devices in our pockets that we're just glued to. It's not like, just a few years ago when we'd have to sit ourselves down in front of the television all day, every day to consume the same amount of content. And the majority of us simply were not doing that. We were living lives out in the real world, engaging with people and learning from one another. And we were reading newspaper articles, not just snippets from articles on Instagram. And we were reading books, not just op-eds of books from people who may or may not have read the books themselves. Every Joe Schmo is pressured now to have a hot take on everything we hear immediately upon hearing it. And while that could be swung as empowerment of the individual, what it really does is it dilutes and obscures the message. Everyone with an opinion has a podcast. Everyone with a smartphone is an influencer. We've literally even lost the ability to distinguish between what is an opinion and what is a fact. So the moral of all of this is just to think twice before sharing. Look, it happens to the best of us. It's happened to me. It's happened to you. I'm sure of it. We're all going to fall for things that, looking back, we should have known better than to fall for. But all anyone is asking is that you just be a little bit more diligent in your fact checking and a little bit more thoughtful in your messaging than Ted Cruz is. That's it. All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like and subscribe to the channel. Also, be sure to follow me on all the socials and check out my new podcast, Modern Context. I promise I try really hard to fact check things. All right, thank you so much.